Welcome to the R7 podcast, sponsored by M is Good. R7 is an innovative, God-inspiring process that explores personal and professional purpose. R7 analyzes 7 strategies to transform your vision and find direction in your organizational marketing. R7 establishes clarity and guidance for the gift we call life. Welcome to the R7 podcast. Got Justin from Reborn Golf on today, and my awesome sidekick, David Bennett. Welcome to the podcast, fellas.
What's happening?
What's up, buddy?
Good to be here.
Hey, so it's funny, Dave. Like the last podcast we talked about, the format might be different this year. So I think this kind of makes it possible for you to kind of crack that open for a second.
Yeah. So we are going to bring in different clips from different sporting venues, whether it be the NHL, the NFL, the PGA, and talk about low and high EI, emotional intelligence. And so we're kicking that off today with Justin. Justin, man, you have been a buddy, golf friend for years. You are one of the leaders in golf fitness. I don't know anybody else who's just crushing it like you in the golf fitness space, but there are a lot of acronyms by your name right now. Can you go over those for us? So tell us about golf fitness, what you've been up to.
Yeah. So I started Reborn Golf with the intent to get behind kind of my story. And I know a lot of people relate to my story in a way that everyone starts out as some sort of athlete, you know, whether it be low level baseball, football, basketball, whatever the case may be. A lot of the times over the course of our life, we tend to gear towards sports that we're able to play to remain competitive and just enjoy something that keeps us in the game somehow, and especially the camaraderie, right? So what I did when I was playing baseball, I played high school, collegiate, and 1 year semi-professional. When I was done with that, I was kind of lost. You know, I went into the business world. Of course, that's what everybody does, go get a job and start to figure it out. But I always had that itch, that athletic itch to want to play. I just have this natural inclination, God-given, creative mind to want to go play sports and be competitive. And no matter where I went, I never got that competitive itch scratched until I learned one day about TPI. And I was practicing golf hours on hours at a time. And I've discovered TPI, that was the golf fitness side. And I never put 2 and 2 together that golf had a training regimen that people were preparing to play for golf through fitness. And once I did that, I saw my game skyrocket to new heights that I was not hitting at the time. And I was young. And that was the key point, was that I was young in my early 20s, mid 20s, and not hitting the ball 300 yards. I still had achy in the lower back, or like ache in the neck or shoulder, what have you, pre-existing injuries. And then as I took my career a little bit further and got more certifications and understood the sport a little better, I started to think, well, people must be going through this on the day-to-day, because, I'm young and I'm experiencing this, but I can't imagine the person who's in their 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond, who are just seeing their distance come down, their consistency come down, their inability to play 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row. And then I thought to myself, I mean, that's why we're going to create this business. We're going to create Reborn Golf to help people become reborn in the game and understand that it takes a new foundation to play for forever, to play longer.
Yeah, it's awesome. This podcast is, R7, which is talking about destiny, vision, strategy, brand, communication, praying, action. And today's podcast, is going to be about action and emotions. We're going to show a Rory clip here in a second, but you opened my eyes to that idea of golf fitness and mobility. And, it's not just about the swing and the technique, it's about your mobility and your flexion points. And so it's just really cool to see you tackle that. And we know that Dave Bennett, he definitely has some mobility issues. And, so Dave.
Here we go.
So Dave, you gotta talk to Justin, man, because we all played golf together this past summer, and
yeah, we did. I I didn't play very well, that's for sure. I definitely need to get on the course longer and more, but it is what it is.
Well, that's one of the points I try to make with newer customers is, one, I got to be my own best customer. So when you play with me, I got to put on a show of power, mobility, all that stuff. I may not score well sometimes, but I'll always be able to play 36 holes if necessary. Like, my body's prepared to play. I warm up before and I cool down after. And then a lot of things I preach to my clients and the people I work with is that you cannot go 0 to 100 with this stuff, just like anything else. Those New Year's resolution people, they all phase out for a reason. They try to go no workout to 5 days a week, and it does not work like that. So with most of my clients, I'll have you usually start with a 30-day mobility program where you're not really hitting the gym. It's not really necessary. You just stay in your living room and kind of move around on the floor, almost like a baby in a cradle. Like, you're just moving parts of your body you haven't moved in certain ways, laterally, just isolating the hips, isolating the shoulders, and just kind of like Tin Manning it, putting the oil in for when we take the next step. So that's a huge part, is just not going 0 to 100.
How do you feel about that, Dave?
I think 0 to 100 is normally the speed you attempt to go to, man. So did you hear what he was talking about? If you're going to do this, man, you got to be the baby on the floor.
It all starts with assessment. It all starts with assessments, because sometimes you may be in a position where you can go maybe 50 to 100, but you got to get assessed first and figure it out.
Yeah, you need assessed, Dave.
We need to get assessed.
One thing I do love about golf, man, is that so many people can relate to it. So many people can play it. It's from that child age all the way up till retirement age. Like, you can prolong your life and get out there and be active and not necessarily play well, but be outdoors and enjoy yourself. And I think someone like you, Justin, coming in and helping them enjoy that a little bit more. Today we're going to be talking about not necessarily the physical side of things, but the mental side of things. I want to talk about low and high emotional intelligence. We're going to see this here in a second with Rory. But before I show the clip, I just want to kind of lay down some tracks on what high and low emotional intelligence is. So if you're high EI, you're usually leading with vision. You're in control. When you're low EI, you're leading with your emotions, and you allow your emotions to get to you. And so there's actually a cognitive anxiety and somatic anxiety. And so cognitive anxiety is like when you're in your head, right? And you're just thinking it through and you just can't get past that last shot. Somatic anxiety is where, it's a physiological act. Something is happening. Your heart rate is raising. You're sweating. It's physiological. And so in this Rory clip we're about to see, I think he's got some cognitive and somatic anxiety. So let's just show it, and then we'll talk about the high and low EI here. So just give me a second. Share screen.
Well, and while you're doing that, as Dr. David Bartholomew Jones likes to say, sports is a petri dish of emotions.
Yes, it is. Even at the highest stage, and even for somebody who's been here many times, let's go ahead and play this clip.
For par.
Can't watch.
It's very difficult.
Excruciating decade-long wait and excruciating.
So I like, if we break this down a little bit, he takes a little pause here. If you notice, he takes a minute or like a second to kind of get himself. Watch, he kind of looks at him. Let me back up just a little bit. There we go. Watch him take this little pause here. And look, okay, he's trying to reset himself, but he didn't reset himself.
Excruciating short misses for McIlroy.
Yeah. At the U.S. Open this last year for par, and he loses by 1 because he bogeys 18.
And then he leaves. So let's go back here. So you guys know the story here. He leaves, right? He just immediately walks off. He's I would say he's low EI at this point. So his emotions are leading him, not his vision for his life. He's stuck in this time zone of I just missed, I just blew it, and he just allows himself to just lead with emotions. And so this is Dave, you want to set this up a little bit? This is
Yeah. So now he's got to watch Bryson come down 18, and he realizes he's behind by 1. All Bryson has to do is par. And so he's in the tent watching with his caddy, and Bryson makes the putt there. And you get to see the excruciating look on Rory's face right there, hands on the hips. He turns around and walks out, and his caddy follows him. And he not only walks out, he heads to the parking lot, burns a little bit of rubber on the way out, does not address the media till much later.
So Justin, what do you see here from the putt, the miss, to the reaction to the loss?
When I watched that live, one that was in North Carolina, where I believe at least 2 of 3 of us are, it was nice to know that was going on in our backyard. So that was fun. I didn't get a chance to go this year, but I know the PGA Championship is at Quail Hollow this year, so I'll be trying to get to that for sure. When I watched that live, I thought of a couple things. One, I thought of the putt he missed on 16, which I was alluding to a little bit earlier. He missed a putt that was very, very similar, but a little bit easier, I would say, to his standards. And that one put more pressure on the putt on 18. So throughout a round of golf, things can happen where at that level, especially, one stroke somewhere else led you to that. So I can imagine that all the pressure and the focus was in that moment of that putt, but I guarantee that after he wasn't just thinking about that putt, there were probably plenty other opportunities that he was thinking about that he could have saved that stroke for it to not mean that much. I know when he walked up to that putt, most of us haven't played on 13 or 14 plus rated greens that are that fast. So a downhill left to right putt for a righty is probably the most difficult putt, no matter what length. And for the greens to be that fast with the angle he had to putt that and being downhill, that was probably one of the toughest putts that he would say he would ever have to putt. And with everything that was on the line, the U.S. Open, him not winning a major in 10 years, Bryson right on his tail, it doesn't get any harder than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think as, no matter what kind of golfer you are, you've been there, whether it was a drive, a chip, a putt, where you just hit a bad shot and you have this expectation that you can hit this shot because you've hit this shot before, but you haven't consistently hit it like the pros, like consistently every single time hit it. So you've hit it before sporadically, and now, you have this expectation that's going to go well, and it doesn't. And so now you carry that low emotional intelligence into the next shot, and it just kind of snowballs to the point where, you're just completely out of it. And so one of the things that we can do is what I call a reload, where you relax, you release, and you refocus. So when you reload, you relax, you breathe. We talked about that cognitive and somatic anxiety. You got to get that out. And the only way to do that is to breathe through it and slow your heart rate down. And so you're relaxing. Then you release. So when you release, you let go of what just happened, which is really, really hard. You got to let go of that last shot. You got to let go of the previous holes. You have to focus on the here and now. Every major sports psychology article I read, the elite athletes are able to stay in the here and now. Mm-hmm. They have an uncanny ability to release. Mm-hmm. And so we relax, we reload, and we release. So we're releasing, we refocus. So we refocus on what we're doing in the moment. So relax, release, refocus. So we focus on our vision. Why are we here? What are we doing? What's the big picture in my life? I'm focused on my family, not this shot. My identity isn't in this shot. And that's where you can see Rory, I think, when he's wherever he's at in the press conference or whatever in that room, he puts his hands on his hips. And, in a way, we could talk about this is that he is high-eye because he's getting away from the situation. He doesn't want to, talk to anybody, which is probably a really healthy thing to do. and focus on the big picture, which is his identity is not in the game of golf. And we can talk about that, about hockey, we talk about football, baseball, whatever sport you're playing, your identity is not in that particular shot or moment.
I think most people live in the right in the middle, right? They usually hit bad shots. And then they'll say, like I was talking about the average golfer, will say, I'll focus on the next shot. They know they're supposed to move to the next shot, but of all the bad shots that they hit, they keep a little bank in the back of their mind that when they hit that club in that situation, whatever the case may be, they'll keep that shot in their mind. So they're kind of, in a way, there's some percentage of their brain thinking about that bad shot in the moment. Whereas pros don't do that. They know they've hit bad shots, but they think about all the good shots that they've hit. They think about how they've recovered from situations that they've been in. My favorite golfer is Jordan Spieth. No one gets in more trouble than him and gets out. And, you can't have, oh, well, that one time I hit the tree limb from this spot and didn't make it out. He has to see the hole that the one key hole that he's seeing. I made that one time and I can do it this time. It's a different mindset.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it makes you wonder how much of 16 was in his head as he stood over that putt.
Probably a lot. It was very similar. It was a very similar putt.
So what's interesting is a few weeks later, Tiger gets asked, hey, did you contact him? Because everybody knows they're friends. He goes, yeah, I sent him a text, told him that, you're my friend and these things happen and, you pick yourself up. And at that same tournament where Tiger's at, Rory's there. And Rory goes, yeah. He goes, Tiger just told me. I just found out. He sent me that text. He goes, because 2 days after that, I changed my number. And he said, I never even knew he texted me. And when he told me that, I said, oh, that's nice of you. And that's, Dave, that's taking the high EI to another extreme of going, I don't even want to be contacted by anybody. I don't even want to talk about it. I need a chance to be able to, refocus and release and get that done.
Yeah.
It's also, if you watch any of the documentaries on Kobe Bryant, I think that when he kind of makes the switch in his career, as he gets really good at that, and that's when he switched over to really talking about the Mamba mentality of being able to keep shooting. I mean, that guy missed a ton of shots, but he became an amazing athlete because of his ability to erase it and keep going.
Yeah. And so this is sort of a really awesome technique. I think it's super easy to remember, when you reload, right? You just got to relax, release, and refocus. So where we focus on the vision. If we don't have that vision already preloaded and where we're going, then you can't refocus. So you're stuck in the low EI. And so this is where, my kids, like we watch football and, the quarterback goes back and he's waiting, and he throws it, and it's like, I always go, got him, because he sees it. I got him, And so whenever I'm playing somebody in any sport or whatever, and they go low EI, I'm like, I got him. And
there.
Yeah. Because you just can't let go, or the technique or mechanism isn't there, right? The reload isn't there. And so, it's something that you could just build upon. One of the things I do like watching Bryson play is that when he refocuses, he gets back to technical. Like I can just imagine. I would love to talk to him about this, but every club in his bag, I imagine, has a degree of where he's bringing it back to and the strength he's pushing through the ball. And he just gets back to that's the vision of where he wants to be instead of allowing his motions to drive him.
What do you think about that, that's Justin? Physical.
Right. Yeah.
Realistically, that's physical because he's done it over and over again. We've talked about muscle memory before, but the technical side of the physical, if you would say, is that he's done it over and over again. He's trained without a golf club in his hand to do those movements, to know how far back he has to go, to know how much thoracic rotation, how much hip load is going to create the distance of shots that he wants. It's not just the club. Very, very limited part is the club. Actually, he's already designed those clubs to do exactly what he needs to do, hit the numbers that he needs to hit. So it's up to the body to create it. And to know his body is going to do that takes the training.
Dave, I know we're talking about golf here, and we're talking about, just general sports, but in the corporate world, we have this all the time. Somebody says something, an email comes across, your low EI. You may
Oh yeah.
gossip with your colleague about this person, that person. Like, you're clearly leading with your emotions and how you feel, and not looking at the bigger group as a unity, as a vision of where we're going, and putting your own personal agenda in the background. What do you think about that?
Well, it's crazy, right? Because today we live in a world, whether you're using Teams or Zoom, where you do a lot of your meetings on video and on the screen.
Mhm.
So now you have the ability that if you're in a meeting with multiple people and somebody else wants to talk junk behind everybody's back and they kind of want to bait you, they can talk to you on the side and be like, this is ridiculous. Why are they talking about this? I can't believe this. And you have to really be able to kind of identify where you are in those situations and be able to continue to make choices around choosing to be high EI and not come across like you're flying off the handle, you're taking criticism personally, a choice that's made you disagree with, and it's the end of the world. I mean, those are things that, again, they've always been there in the professional world, but I think they're exacerbated now because your ability to bait people and tempt people that are low EI, saying, come with me to this end of the pool
Yeah.
because I'm mad too. Right? You're being baited and tempted by low EI people. And then are those people you trust? Are they people on your team that you want to be able to continue to maintain respect? Do you need to, talk with them? I mean, it's a pretty complicated web.
It is, and I think it does come down to you individually saying, all right, I'm in a weak place here. I'm mindful that my emotions are taking hold of me, and I need to stop them.
Yep.
Right? I mean, Justin, you can see, with different players that you work with, and even yourself, like, we know when your emotions are leading you, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And
When,
so,
when you're just not getting the feel, right? And pros go through this as well. Everybody goes through this, but the pros is where it hurts, especially because there's real money on the line. But we've all had those rounds where the doubt creeps in. Suddenly every shot feels wrong. But when that happens over a period of time for a pro, Brooks was going through it for like a year or two, where it just his swing didn't feel right. And it was actually when Scotty started to come up, he's like, I don't know how I'm going to beat this guy. It was in that documentary there, the full swing.
Yep.
Where he was looking at Scotty win, and he's like, I don't know how I'm even able to compete with these guys. And you're talking about a guy who won 4 majors.
Yeah.
And he just lost the feel, and he couldn't get it back because it was all mental. He has the physical ability. Everyone knows that, but he couldn't make an 8-foot putt to save his life.
Yeah. Albeit probably biggest classic case is David Duval. He goes from winning and being at the top to just completely disappearing, like gone, and you don't hear from him for years and years and years. Same thing, right? You lose, whether it's that confidence, that feel, that swing, or whatever, and it's you lose it. Good luck trying to find it back, and people then don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, David Duval is interesting because you're right. He did disappear. For someone like Rory, who has that embarrassing moment, comes back. I think even, the president, Donald Trump, like all the stuff he went through, and he still came back, and he still came back. That's, the definition of mental toughness is playing at the upper ranges of your ability consistently under pressure in the biggest moments. And so if you quit, that's a whole nother issue, right? Because now that your fear, lust, anger, pride is getting in the way and going, I can never go back and face the same people because I'm just so embarrassed. Like, to me, that's a different issue. Working through your doubt, which Bryson did, what do you think he did, Justin, to get back to where he was at?
Well, thankfully, physical preparation isn't just about strength. It's about creating confidence in your abilities.
Yeah.
So whether, like I said before about him, whether or not he had a golf club in his hand, doubt doesn't really stand a chance when you feel ready. So Rory did the same thing. I don't remember the timeline after the U.S. Open, but I know over the offseason, he was hitting golf balls in the dark in his little chamber, just trying to get the feel right as opposed to what the ball flight looked like. And I think that's a major thing to to point out for other people who think just banging balls all day is going to fix the problem. It's all these guys go back to something else. They don't want to see it. And most likely the ones that tend to hit balls so much to try to fix it get injured.
Yeah. That goes back to the saying of practice makes perfect. No, perfect practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
And so you need that mentorship. Yeah, you need that mentorship. You need that repetition, but you need somebody there to walk you through.
Yeah.
And see the bigger picture.
I agree. Prepare and improve, or stay stuck in the same frustrating cycle.
Yeah. So I think if you're listening to this podcast and we're talking about action, right, and how you're taking action, you're going to be low EI. It's going to happen. This is not a matter of it'll never happen. It's kind of like, I'm going to be stress-free. No, you're not. You're going to be doubt-free. No, you're not. It's a matter of understanding, okay, I'm going to be low EI, and what am I going to do in that situation? And so we're talking about the reload, right? It's a good tool to kind of get yourself back grounded and allow yourself to lead with a vision, lead to something bigger. I obviously been teaching this for years, but when I play in tournaments, man, I'm like, people get so mad on the golf course. It's embarrassing. And it's like, I just laugh because, like, you finish up on Sunday at, let's say, 2:00. At 3:00, nobody's going to know your score.
Yep.
Nobody's going to care. The next week, what we're going to remember? You breaking your club, you throwing your club. We're not going to remember maybe that you lost, but who cares? We all lose. And, like, golf is hard. So to me, it's about the character, who you are, what you present to somebody on a course, how you're acting. Who cares about the score, man? Like, low EI, that just ruins who you are and your integrity, because we all know you're better than that and bigger than that. That's why I think we start.
It's such an individual sport. That's
Yeah.
Your spike of anger goes up so fast, like a seismic reading. And in that moment is where you really got to keep it in check. And it's just that one moment, maybe 20 times. Depends on
exactly.
how well or bad you play, but it's just a quick spike. You don't like feel it rising. It's just like something doesn't happen in a moment where you wanted it to, and you really gotta tone it down. You gotta reset.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. 20 times per hole. You know what I mean? Depending on the hole, right?
Sure.
Yep.
And so, I just kind of laugh at that and say, okay, let's move on, man. Like, I want to be friends with you in the clubhouse. I actually left the golf course. I won't say which one, but I left because I was so embarrassed of a guy just throwing F-bombs down the fairway because he couldn't hit a shot. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this is just, you're bigger than that. You're better than that. I don't want to remember you by that.
Yep.
Well, everyone's quick to say that they've played better.
Yeah.
When they're having those moments, no, this ain't me. This is
yeah, exactly. Last year I was a champion. This year, okay. Yeah.
94
that whole last 6 times.
I often said too that the easier you get mad, the less you have vision in your life. Like, you have a small dream, man. You get mad easy, you got a small dream. Right? You need a bigger dream. You need a bigger vision. You need some other things going in your life. Like, relax, man. God's in control. God's got a plan for you. God's got a plan for your life, man. And it's bigger than your miss on 17 during the men's golf on Tuesday night. Like, who cares?
They're just mad they lost their gold vice ball, Dave. And that gold vice ball they've had for the last couple rounds, and they've scored well. And now it's over, man. It's over.
Golf balls are expensive. They're expensive.
Yeah. So reload, relax, release, refocus. Dave, let's shut it down here. What did you get out of this podcast? What do you think the takeaway is?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think if you have actual blood pumping through your veins, you're going to deal with this.
Yeah.
You're going to deal with opportunities to choose, because it's a choice, high EI or low EI, and you have to be prepared for that. As we've said many times, Dave, peaks and valleys, man.
Yeah.
Life's about peaks and valleys, and it's your choice and how you handle it. So I think this is just one more good example. It doesn't matter how many zeros are after the dollars that you make. Everybody deals with it. No one's immune.
Justin, what's your takeaway?
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for having me on. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. I'd love to be back anytime you'll have me. I'd like to share one thing before I say what I got out of it.
Yeah.
Based on what you just said, Dave, about peaks and valleys, there's a very strong Bible verse that I take to heart. I love it. It's one of my favorites. It's Deuteronomy 2, verse 2 and 3. That says, "Then the Lord said to me, you've been wandering around the hill country long enough. Now turn north." So to what you just said with peaks and valleys of having it be a choice to be low EI or high EI, you're always wandering around peaks and valleys, the hill country, right? You just got to turn north. Just understand that there's one direction. Someone else is in control. You're not, but you have one heading, and it's to make sure that you're doing the best things that you can, taking that next step to be as best as you can possibly be in whatever situation you're in. And what I got out of this, one was learning about low and high intelligence as it relates to golf. That's always an interesting subject for me. And what I wanted to share about that, I'm grateful you let me, is that, the physical aspect means more than most people give it credit for. Golf is a very physically demanding sport. It doesn't look like it on your average weekend round with the people you play with, but when you look at the pros, there's a reason that they look that way and most people look the other way. So if you add the physical factors, it will absolutely help with that EI just being physically and mentally prepared.
Awesome. Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it. Join us again next week. Thanks again for joining us. I want to give special thanks to our sponsor, M is Good. Want to learn more about M is Good? Go to misgood.com. Join us again next week as we continue to uncover the secrets to success with faith-based testimonies and the power of R7. Remember, destiny awaits, but time does not.